guys, welcome back to Sad Dad. My name's Dave Apcari, and I am a comedian out of Fresno, California, and this is a podcast where I sit down with some of my funny friends and we talk about dads. This is episode 2. We made it. We did it. I hope you enjoyed episode 1. Got a lot of great feedback from folks on episode 1, so thank you so much for everybody that listened. I would assume if you're listening to episode 2, episode 1 was good enough, so thank you for that. I released it last week, and one of the things I forgot, I posted it on social media, and I forgot my dad's on social media. So one of the people that listened last week was my dad, and he said he liked it. So that's really cool. Thanks, Dad. It was kind of a panic-inducing moment when I realized, because I had gone over to my folks' house, and I walked in and I hear my own voice coming out of my dad's bedroom. Oh, no. I couldn't remember if I talked any shit or not. But no, he was into it. So, yeah. And just a lot of people, reached out with some real kind words, real encouraging words. And so, that's great. I have a really fun chat this week with, a very talented comedian named Lisa Curry. She's, up out of LA and not originally from there, or originally from the Midwest. We talk a lot about that. We talk about her dad. She has a pretty intense backstory, and we get into some of that too. So thank you so much, Lisa, for coming on and being so open and honest about everything. A little update on me. A couple weeks ago, we had parent-teacher conferences for my daughter. So her mom and I and her stepdad, we all went in, and she's doing great. She's crushing it right now in the first grade. She's reading at a grade level 3.3, which is third grade, third semester. So almost fourth grade. I'm rounding up to fourth grade. So yeah, being in first grade, that's fantastic. So real happy about that. I just got back from doing some shows in Orange County, so that was a lot of fun, hanging out with my buddy Matt Cole and a few others. One of the fun things I got to do while I was down there was we run these shows out of Fresno, California. My partner Danny Minch and I put up a lot of the comedians at my house, and oftentimes I have to leave before the shows that we put on with these out-of-town comedians. I have to leave early to set up the venue, and so I'll leave them with my house key, and oftentimes I forget to ask for that house key back, and so I had 3 of my house keys down in Southern California. So while I was down there, I was on like a literal RPG like quest to collect all the keys. So that was fun. Got to see some of my friends. It was a good excuse to hang out with some of the people down there. And I did karaoke last night. We had our Tuesday show, and I didn't host last night. I hosted Monday. But I did do a set last night, and then we did karaoke after the show. A bunch of the comedians went out and did that, and I just fried my voice. This is about my tonal range before I start cracking. So it'll be a nice break. We've got a break in shows for at least until Friday. So hopefully my voice gets a little bit better in that time. And oh gosh, I wanna give you an update on other stuff. I don't know. Oh well, I guess before this episode, Lisa and I had done a show where Lisa headlined, I hosted, and it was kind of a interesting moment because there was a gal I had been dating. She was at that show, and right after the show, the comedy show, she decided that things weren't really going to work out between her and I, and mostly because I do comedy 5 to 6 nights a week, and the nights that I'm not doing that, I have my kiddo, and I'm busy during the day with my kiddo, and she just didn't feel like I had the time for a relationship, and frankly, I don't think she's wrong. But it was still kind of a bummer, and after the comedy show was when Lisa and I sat down to record this episode, so I was feeling kind of bummed. Lisa was great, though. She gave me a bit of a pep talk in that she told me that that's the sacrifice. That's why Lisa's been single for 10 years, is because she's been chasing the same crazy dream that I have. And so I don't know that it was necessarily a pep talk, but it was a nice empathetic moment and a nice reminder, both good and bad, of what we have to sacrifice to do this. But it's also good to know that I'm kind of on the right trajectory to accomplish what I want to accomplish with this whole comedy thing. So bittersweet moment, but it did make me feel a little bit better. And then I set up all the podcasting gear, and that was kind of therapeutic, just kind of a zen moment. And then by the time we sat down and hit the record button, I was feeling pretty good. So thanks Lisa for the pep talk. And I think that covers everything that I wanted to cover. I think you guys are gonna like this episode a lot. First episode was great. This one's gonna be good too. Let's just do it. Let's just jump into it. So I will be back here to send you guys off in about 45 minutes. So I'll see you again real soon, guys. Enjoy the episode.
Now he's just taking this mic away.
Yeah, I'll keep talking.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is Lisa Curry.
This is exactly what happened.
We're going to talk about dads, apparently. I'm sleeping in Dave's kids' room, which is weird. There's just like 20 things of Play-Doh, and I'm really trying to keep myself from just tearing into them. Have you guys ever eaten Play-Doh? Don't answer that. It's a podcast. You can't answer it. Have you ever just put a little bit of Play-Doh in your mouth? It's really salty. It's kind of delicious, actually.
I have eaten Play-Doh, and yes.
I ate everything when I was a kid.
I can't believe you don't know Kyle. He's great.
No idea.
I think he knows of you.
Oh.
He's like 6'5", and 300 pounds. No?
Yeah, I don't think I do. Unless he's somebody I just know his like face and his first name, and maybe I don't know his first and last name together somehow.
Yeah, it's always my mic. It's never anybody else's mic. Well, while I'm doing this, you're a comedian.
I am.
Well, how'd you get into comedy?
Oh wait, can they hear me? Can they hear you on here?
They can probably pick me up on there.
How'd I get into comedy?
I'm very loud.
No, I'm doing the NPR thing. The question was, how did I get into comedy? Child abuse. That's always my answer.
Yeah, okay.
It was kind of on accident. I always liked performing when I was a kid. I did recitals and bullshit like that. And we watched a lot of comedy when I was growing up, but I never thought it was a real job option. I thought, like Johnny Carson's a comedian and Jerry Seinfeld's a comedian, and that's it. That's a wrap. Those two are comedies.
Check. Okay. I'm back. So you actually grew up watching comedy?
Yeah, not stand-up ever, but my parents watched The Tonight Show pretty religiously. I was obsessed with I Love Lucy. We watched a lot of Cheers and All in the Family and stuff like that. But I didn't think, I don't know. I didn't think there was a thing that you could do.
Right.
But I understood the concept of like acting. So I moved out to LA to do that, and then I kind of hated it. I mean, I just didn't like actors, people that are like, my craft. I'm like, okay, relax.
Right.
And then I started doing Second City, just honestly because I was afraid of improv, and I was like, this is fucking terrifying. And I was like, well, that's ridiculous. I shouldn't be like scared of this thing. So then I started improv and loved it.
Oh, cool. I didn't realize your background was in improv.
Oh, yeah.
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 That's cool. Yeah. And so you were, because you grew up in Indiana.
Yeah.
Right? Is that,
I did.
Yeah.
Northeast Indiana.
Is there any kind of an improv scene or a comedy scene
Not that I know of.
No.
I mean, there's a lot more comedy now. I think there's like a lot of like small comedy shows popping up all over.
Yeah.
I mean, the closest thing was Chicago, which I grew up an hour out of Chicago, but I didn't, like in my mind, you just go to Los Angeles. Like that was, I didn't even realize, because I had no direction. My family's very blue collar. So I didn't know that like one path would be to go to Chicago and build up a following and get good and then come out.
Sure.
Which I wish I would have known that, because it seems like that's the blueprint for success. I mean, so many people have like built up in Chicago or Atlanta or wherever, and then, or Denver is another great scene.
Yeah. We actually, I mean, in our rooms, we've had a few Chicago comedians out, and we've always loved them. And I don't know what it is about that, like Midwestern, like sensibilities.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, it adds a lot to stage.
I think they're very real. For the most part. I mean, you look at like Kyle Kinane, his stand-up is coming from like a really honest place. Right.
Yeah, we've had guys like, I don't know, do you know Aaron Weaver?
I know of Aaron. I don't like know him.
Sure. He's a Chicago comic that came out. I'm not sure how recently, but he hit us up and we put him up and we just adored him. And then the same thing I mentioned her to you, Amanda Cohen is another Chicago comic. And there's just something about the Chicago people like that just translates very well to stage. At least in our rooms, it plays really well. And Aaron's fun because he has like very dense, very smart material, but it's all, he kind of delivers it all in this like bro kind of way, and it's one of those things where he's being smarter than you'd ever realize he's being.
That's cool.
And it's great. So I guess with your background, I mean, what does your family think you're doing? You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know if they know. Like I mean they know, but I don't know if they like really wrap their heads around it, because I'll try to explain stuff. I'm like, oh, I got this thing, or and they just don't. I mean, like explaining freelance to my dad, who's like a lifelong union iron worker, and I'm like, yeah, I'm waiting on this fucking check from November, and he's like, what? Fucking kill them. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't. And he's like, you call them right now. And I'm like, okay, I want another job. He's like, why would you want to work for them again? I'm like, well, because it's like a credit. And he's like, what the fuck?
What's a credit? That's so funny.
Yeah.
But you're doing some cool stuff now. I read off your credits before I introduced you. By the way, Lisa's been crushing it in our rooms. She's doing a run of shows with us up here in Fresno, all the way up from LA. And you've been doing great.
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I know, I mean, it's a bit of a drive, but you actually have some cool gigs coming up. What was that?
I do.
Yeah, you're going like across the ocean.
Yeah. I got into a festival in Wales that I'm headlining. I fucking cannot wait. Just getting into it in the first place was exciting, but then they were like, hey, we'd love for you to do an hour. And I'm like, excuse me?
That's, yeah. It's, I mean, because it's, for me, you're much further along in your comedy career than I am. And it seems like that's like the biggest transition for like from feature to headlining, I mean, because it's so easy to crush, a 15 or a 20 as the feature,
Sure.
but figuring out like that pacing in the headlining, because really, I mean, I a lot of times like a strong feature and a headliner don't necessarily have, like, the headliner doesn't necessarily have more material than the good feature. It's just that headliner has that pacing, and a lot of times featuring is just like, let's go out there and just race to the finish line.
Right.
And that just seems like a difficult transition to.
Yeah, I think if I'm like going back and forth a lot from shorter sets and longer sets and whatever, it's a lot easier than like if I'm in LA for a long time. If you're in your home city, you're only doing like maybe 10 minutes on a show.
Right.
A lot of shows are like, how about 6? And I'm like, what? No.
Yeah.
Help.
Yeah, right.
But like, yeah, if you're doing like 10 every night for like 4 months and then you have to do an hour, it feels weird, especially because like my short sets are like rapid fire. They're really fast, but you can't. I might be able to do that for an hour, but the audience will be so tired after like 15 minutes. They'd be so exhausted.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. So, but I mean, you're doing it. You're doing great. Yeah, so,
thanks.
Yeah, way to go.
I'm loving it. Today, I mean, we'll see how I feel tomorrow or the next day. I might want to kill myself.
Yeah, because I have this very romantic idea of the LA comedy scene that I know is wrong.
Oh.
You know, like because I mean, it's like I have so many LA friends, and it just seems like everybody's going up and doing comedy, and everything's great. But I know that you guys deal with that a lot.
Yeah.
These because I'll see the posters. Where you see like 10 comics on the poster, and you're like, wow, that must be a really long show. But it's like
everybody's
6 minutes.
doing 6 minutes.
Yeah,
and it's like people with enormous credits,
Yeah.
It's like Jerry Seinfeld's dropped in to do 4 minutes. Like, I mean, not really, Jerry, but Jerry, I'm starting a show soon. You can be on it if you're listening.
Yeah, you've been working really hard.
I'll give you 6 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, just in the day and a half you've been up here hanging out with me, I mean, just watching you work, and your work ethic is, I mean, I was like whining about putting shows on event calendars today. You're like, I submitted a pilot.
That's hilarious. I
was
can't.
like, God,
I'm like
these damn
addicted to
community
work.
calendars.
I think I might have a problem because I'm like addicted to work. Because I'm like, okay, then I sent all this stuff for a pitch over, and then immediately I was like, gotta work on this other show that I'm writing, and gotta send some booking stuff, and I'm like setting up some meetings in London while I'm over there, and I'm like,
man.
it just gotta keep.
Look at you.
I don't know.
Doing it.
I feel like I can't rest for 10 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to, though. Also,
Sure.
it's like a problem.
Yeah, because it's such I mean, it can be such a depressing grind, especially like, you're kind of at this crazy ceiling, it feels like, in comedy right now. Like it seems like you get to, I haven't gotten there yet, obviously, but it seems like there's kind of like almost a roof you can hit when you're at your place in comedy, where it's like, okay, I either need to like just go all in and figure out how to like start doing theaters, or I need to like figure out the writing, or maybe I need to do a little bit of both. And so it's neat for me to see comedians in various stages of development in their career, and and you're at one where I'm sure in a couple of years everybody's gonna know your name, and
I mean, that's the goal.
Totally. But seeing you in this position now is interesting too, because a lot of the headliners that we work with aren't quite there, or at least not there. I mean, maybe they will be. They'll catch up to you, but it's just a fascinating business because there's no one guaranteed way to do anything.
It is so wild because you look back on different people's careers, and I really love comedy. I'm still a fan of it, and I don't I watch what other people are doing and like see how other people came up and whatever, and it's like, there's no. Some people do the Tonight Show and then you never see them again, ever.
Yeah.
And then some people do a show with a smaller viewership like Conan, and then it's Amy Schumer, and it's like the biggest fucking comedian on the planet. And you're like, well, there's different factors. There's, I'm sure some people have better reps than others. So it's like if you have access to more things, you can obviously, someone with more opportunities will be able to do more than someone without, period.
Right.
Regardless of skill level, I think.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's really, I've known a couple of comedians that have worked really hard for that Conan set and have gotten it, and nothing happens, I mean, it's an amazing credit, but how much that translates, in the long run.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. But I think what I mean, and I don't fucking know. I haven't done a late night set, but as far as I can tell from what other people are doing is I think that there's two ways people approach it. One way is people are like, fuck yeah, I got a late night set. This is going to solve all my problems and launch me into the stratosphere. And then some people are like, I got a late night set coming up. I better have a fucking pilot ready to go, and I better have a writing packet, and I better have a feature set and a headlining set, and like, so that thing can launch you. I think that's people only see like the finished product, so you see like, oh, the Tonight Show launched so and so, but it's like no. It only launched them because they were ready to go. Yeah, you know, it's not like. It's not like they got any special favors. Like they were at the fucking line. Yeah, you know. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, and it seems like that's definitely the winning combination, because it's almost got to be like a 1-2 punch where it's like I do it all. You know, I got a killer set, but look at all this other stuff I have written. J.C. Carias. He's similar, you know. I mean, he's got a million projects, and he and I were hanging out, and he was just going over everything, and I'm like, man, I am not doing enough. You know what? Seeing you guys, and you know,
you have a kid though. I don't even have a fucking house plant. Actually, I do. I have a flower. It's half dead.
It's definitely like you're working smarter. You know, you're working harder and smarter. You know, and I really admire that.
Oh, thank you.
It's cool.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, so we talk about dads.
Here to talk about dads. I'm a dad.
You have a dad. That's great.
Listen, I've built a deck. I can fix your boat.
Yeah, okay. we actually had a great.
I can hang a tire swing. I'm your dad.
Let's do it. Yeah, I mean, I have one, but let's have two dads. We talk about dads and to make me a better dad. I mean, I kind of pitched you the premise of the show. One thing I did forget, I'll explain it when I'll do a little intro wraparound for this. I don't think I've ever explained on air, was I call the show Sad Dad. And the reason that's a phrase I always say to myself, and it's more of like an anti-mantra, if that's such a thing, where I'm like, don't be a sad dad, dude. And like a classic sad dad moment would be like me making dinner for her, and I make her macaroni and cheese, and then I put a little like cutie orange there, and like some baby carrots, and then I put it all down and realize the entire plate of food is orange. It's all one color.
There's just no greens. It's like barely any nutritional value.
I'm like, dude, that's a sad dad moment. You're being a sad dad, like a pathetic dad right now, you know? And so it's like stuff like that I try to be like conscious of, you know, and I don't know, I like hearing stories about dads, you know, and the good and the bad stuff. So you have a very intense backstory, at least for me. I heard you were on Jessica Singleton's podcast, which is a podcast I listen to a lot. Ignorance is #blessed, and you just went through it. And I remember I was on my way back from a show out of town, and I was like, I'll just pop this thing on, you know, something to listen to, some light listening.
This is fun.
About 20 minutes into my drive, I'm crying. But I mean, we don't have to get into all of that. But let's talk about how much do you know about your dad? Like, where did he grow up?
Here's the thing. I get along with my dad now. We didn't always. I love him a lot. He doesn't take care of himself very well. We were talking about this earlier today, in a conversation none of you were privy to. I know I know all my dad's like glory days stories. I don't like really know about my dad. I feel like I try to ask him, like I'll try to get him to open up, and he's like, I don't fucking talk about that shit. Wow. You know, like, I mean, like even like with our family, like our lineage, all I know is that on my dad's side, my ancestors are Scots-Irish, and they were deported from Ireland for theft and murder. Like, that's legit. And then I tried to, like, follow up and ask more questions, and my dad's like, I don't know. I never asked my parents stupid questions like that. And I'm like, well, what? I didn't think it was that stupid. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool, whatever. I mean, he grew up in the same town I grew up in, Cedar Lake, Indiana.
Lifelong
bunch of
Indiana.
Siblings. Most of them are dead now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my dad was the youngest of 5 or 6.
Oh, wow.
And he's 64 now.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel really bad.
Oh, don't.
I feel really dumb right now because in Indiana, he's a lifelong Indianer. What do you?
Real close. Hoosier.
Hoosier. I knew that. There's a
Indianer. I think that's a slur.
Is it really?
No,
I'm kidding. That's like
sounds like it is.
Yeah.
You Indianers, get off my lawn. Okay. All right.
Fine.
We're out. Bye.
And I guess now I'm curious. Like, what's that town like? I mean,
it's a little hick town. I like it. I think it's cute. It's a town situated around a lake, as the name would have you think. Cedar Lake, Indiana. It's an hour out of Chicago. It used to be a hangout for Al Capone back in the day because
cool.
like his main. Obviously, he operated in Chicago, but like it was like a getaway for him. It was like a getaway for a lot of people. It was like a big resort town, and then what happened was, and there's all these cottages around the lake, and then what happened was, a lot of people at one point just stayed in the cottages. I think in like the 50s and stuff. Around that time, I'm probably wrong. I'm probably wrong about the time, but people just started staying in these summer cottages that were only meant to be for the summer. And then, so now it's like a poor little town because there's all these people living in places that aren't built for like winter plumbing in Northwest Indiana. You know,
what's the name of the town? I forgot to.
Cedar Lake.
Cedar Lake. Well, it sounds pretty, at least.
Yeah, it's cute. I like it. I mean, it was fun growing up there. It wasn't until like I was older, and then you start going to neighboring towns, and you're like, oh, we're kind of a shithole, which was like a sad thing to like be excited about where you live your whole life, and then one day be like, oh, what? We're hillbillies? That sucks.
Is it one of those towns that, like, you mentioned Al Capone, there was like crazy like moonshine running and like all of that
I think there was
stuff?
at one point, like at one point there was like an insane number of bars. Right where I grew up, where my house was, like at the end of the block was this place called Cataldi's. It was like a 2-story thing where it was like a bar downstairs and a whorehouse upstairs.
Oh, jeez.
And that was still standing when I was a kid.
Wow.
In the 80s.
Yeah.
And then they finally tore it down in like the early 90s, which is sad because it was a cool old building with all this history. And now there's just a shitty old hardware store there. Like,
oh man,
who cares?
Right.
Who cares about your dumb hardware store?
Do they have does Cedar? I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Cedar Lake. Did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Do they have a what?
Does it have like a cute little like downtown and like a little like main
Not
drag?
at all.
No.
The lake is the main attraction. There's like
gotcha.
2 stoplights, a couple of Dairy Queens. There's a museum. That's wild.
Okay.
There's a Lake of the Red Cedars museum. If you're over there, go. My grandma gives tours. Actually, I don't know if she's going to do it this summer, but it's like the museum is just like a museum of old-timey shit. It's like this big old house kind of, I guess is the best way to describe it. And it's like every room is like an old-timey doctor's office and an old-timey school room and whatever. And there's a kid's room that's supposed to be set up like what a child's room would look like at the turn of the century.
Okay.
But this is ridiculous. So my grandma volunteers there. She has dementia. She also donates things to the museum.
Okay.
So last summer I was home visiting, and I'm just like wandering around the museum, and I go in the kids' room, and I'm like, oh, there's an old crib, some old dolls. Holy shit, that's my stuff. Like, like my grandma just mistakenly donated a bunch of my shit to the museum.
Things you own are in a museum right now.
They're on display in a museum.
That's hilarious.
Which I'm like, part of me is like, I want my stuff back. But then part of me is like, that's on display in a museum. Like, what was I going to do with any of this shit?
Yeah.
Put it in a box somewhere? I'm like, I just want it. I wish they would label it properly. Like, world famous comedian.
Yeah, right. Some cool little like tag. Yeah, like
instead it's just like labeled as like antique toys, and I'm like, no, this shit is from the 80s.
Yeah, it's like late 20th century action figure. It's my Michelangelo. Yeah, absolutely. That's
yes.
hilarious.
So if you guys want to see some of my stuff on display,
that's so funny.
just in a museum, dude, it is wild.
Yeah, no doubt. And so like that's sort of the background or the backdrop in which you grew up. And you mentioned your parents. Well, okay, so you mentioned your dad, and then your mom and dad, were they married or are they? Oh yeah, sorry.
They're insane. They were married for way too long. They should have divorced. They should not have gotten married, actually. I think they hate each other, but I'm not sure now because they divorced maybe 13 years ago. What happened was my mom took my little brother on vacation to Florida on spring break and just didn't go back to Indiana.
Oh my God.
Just my little brother was like, I want to stay here. And she was like, okay, let's do that.
That's
both
of us.
Yeah, it's, which is like something you see in a fun rom-com, but my parents live like this. Their whole lives are just like, well, whatever. I don't know. Let's do this thing. Like there's no rules. So they stay there. Then my little brother ended up moving back to Indiana. My dad filed for divorce. Then a few years ago, my little brother moved back down to Florida, moved in with my mom, and then last summer, my dad went down there to visit, and my parents eloped.
Whoa, they got remarried? Yeah. Oh my God. Well,
yeah. So the two of them, my little brother, are living in a 2-bedroom apartment outside of Tampa, just having a good old time. I don't.
Oh my goodness.
I don't get it.
Wow.
And they're like, come visit. And I'm like, no. That sounds like a fucking mess.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I've heard a few stories about your dad and your family in general, but your dad, both on stage and just on podcasts and just talking. And it seems like, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like all of his shortcomings, he's well-meaning, but maybe ill-equipped. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like he's a nice guy, just maybe not cut out for the whole dad thing,
Yeah, I think he's a good dude. I think he would have, he's a good grandpa. Uh-huh. I think he's a good uncle.
Sure.
I don't think he's a terrible dad. He just was, not interested in anything I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a little too mean at times.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, was he hard on you specifically, or was it? I mean, was he just a?
It was just kind of not. He does this weird bullshit where, and this, of course, probably drives me to do comedy, but anything, I can't ever accomplish enough. It's never. He's like, yeah, well, whatever. I don't give a fuck, But his friends, I'll run into his friend at the gas station or something, and they're like, "Oh man, your dad just thinks the world of you." And I'm like,
geez.
"Yeah, I wish he would fucking tell me for once in his life that I'm doing okay or whatever." He was always like that, or always everything me and my brothers do is "Oh, you're wrong, and you're not doing this right," and it's like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but also you're not really thriving, so relax. It's just I don't know. It's like tough love, but really cranked up, a little too much.
Right.
I get it. Okay, all right, I get your whole shtick. Can I have a hug for fucking God's sakes?
Yeah, I mean, you feel like some of it is him maybe projecting onto you guys, for his shortcomings. Or?
Maybe. I think he thinks he's just hilarious. I think that's he talks to he's always talked to me and my brothers we're one of his drinking buddies, and I'm what? I'm your kid. My dad has this hilarious joke that he likes to, I say hilarious very sarcastically. It's all of my childhood and adolescence, he would hilariously call me ugly and fat and stupid constantly, or I'd be walking out the door, my dad would be yelling out the door, and he's like, "Lisa, wait, hold on, you forgot something." And I come back in the house, he's like, "Just want to tell you you're ugly." And I'm like,
"Oh, Jesus.
This is great." Fucking fuck you, man.
Oh man.
Like, he thinks it's hilarious, but, like, even now, I'm an adult, and I live on my own, and I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess my dad's right. And I guess I'm fucking
That's awful.
stupid.
I mean, I don't know. You seem to be taking it in stride, but that's
there's a lot of, like, undoing, you know.
Sure.
It's like...
It's dark. I'm going to be honest with you. It's dark, but you've got a good sense
I mean, like, you have a daughter. Like, can you imagine being like, hey... You're fucking ugly, like every day. Every day.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't imagine. She, I mean, the poor thing is like running ragged right now because her school piles on so much homework for her.
It's always too much.
Yeah, and and she's got she's got softball going right now, and her mom does Bible Adventure Club with her.
No, cancel it.
Yeah, I mean. And like the other day I was just like, hey, you okay? And she's like, Dad, I'm just so tired. I'm like, oh man, like that's and that's a whole thing.
And then you're like, yeah, I know, Daddy's gotta put a show poster up.
Yeah, right.
I'm teasing you.
All stuff I wrestle with, like, for reals. I know you're joking, but it's true. And and then for me to be like, yeah, well, ugly people get tired, honey. That's like, I couldn't imagine like piling that onto her as well.
Ugly people get tired.
I don't know. I mean, so yeah.
I need that as a bumper sticker. Yeah, it's fucking exhausting. Try being cute.
Yeah, right. When you were, and that's the incredible thing about you is because you're successful now, but you were successful then too, right? Like in the midst of all of that,
I'd like to think so.
You were. I mean, you've talked about, you were a great student and you were an athlete and all of that.
Yeah, my family is a bunch of fucking outlaws. Like I love them dearly, but I mean, I have that bit. Like, I'm the only person in my immediate family who has not been arrested. Like, Come on, guys. Like, please.
Yeah, right.
Please. And they're like, look at this piece of shit doing comedy for freelance and fucking dumb shit. Like, and I'm like, yeah, I don't have a pension, but, like, I don't know, like, you've never had to bail me out. I feel like that is worth something. Like, I went to college for a minute. I did drop out, so that, I guess, doesn't really do much for me. But
yeah. And now, I mean, I know you've mentioned to me, at least, I don't know if you've mentioned it since we've been recording, but your family owned a bar?
Yeah.
And then you mentioned that they then bought a marina.
Yeah,
on the lake.
That was wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So before I was even born, my parents owned a little biker bar that we lived across the street from because, like, why inconvenience your alcoholism? Why not just roll down the fucking hill into the bar? And that, both of them were a lot of fun. Like, when my parents sold that, they owned... I'm going to get this wrong, but they owned, like, the business, but my grandma owns the bar, and she still does to this day. So she owns the bar and the liquor license and everything. So it's, like, more of a lease, I guess, or, like, somebody else. Yeah, like, whoever owns it now changed the name, but my grandma still owns the bar. I don't know. It's confusing. Yeah. Listen, I'm not a fucking business major, okay? Leave me alone. Leave me alone, no one who's mouthing off to me. But so my parents had that, and then when I was like 7, they bought a marina, and that was a fucking blast. That was so fun.
Yeah, that was actually something I wanted to... I think my headphones cut out. Or is my headphones my mic? Can you hear me?
Your mic cut out again. Yeah. Oh, I can hear you now.
Can you? Okay. Check. Okay, there I am. That was one thing I wanted to ask you about was the marina, because it seems like that was... Oh, my goodness. Well, I don't know why this only happens to me.
Dave's over here with his $2 microphone.
I know.
Okay.
It's okay.
It's a really cute microphone.
Thank you. I pride myself on... Let me see how I sound on the... Okay. I'm still coming through. Okay. Because the marina sounds like it was, you said, a happy memory, and you learned you had some good memories, like fixing boats and stuff, you were saying?
Yeah.
Awesome. I want to hear, like, the happy memories, too.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Like, it was a lot there was a lot at the time that I hated because my parents just used my brothers and I for slave labor, basically. Like we were, like they don't think so. Like if you ask them now, they'd be like, "Well, we lost the marina because you didn't work hard enough." And I'm like, "I was 10, so fuck yourself."
That's funny.
But yeah, it was like this big 10-acre ordeal. There was like a gas station there, so I had to like, whenever there was a boat pulled in and needed gas, I had to like run over to from the bait shop to the gas station. I'd like work in the bait shop and like, because it was like a big fishing place too. So like, I don't know, it was like cashier of that, or like go over and like sell somebody life jackets or whatever. And
sorry,
it was fun. It was fun. I learned a lot. I feel I have like this weird base of knowledge that isn't being put to use in my life. You know, I'm like, I just know a fucking whole lot about running a marina.
You're right. Like somehow fixing a trolling motor.
Yeah, exactly.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on. I'm sorry. Check. Yeah, see, here we go.
Your mic is in and out. I'm just gonna do a one-man show now.
Cool. Check. Okay, I'm back.
There we go.
I'm sorry, guys. It's me. It's not Lisa. It's me.
It's
check.
always there.
All right.
But yeah, my dad would like work on boats, and then he'd be like, "Go test drive this and let me know like what's wrong with it or whatever." So he'd like send me out into the lake in a boat, and it would fucking break down the middle, and then I'm like paddling this big motorboat in. Like,
oh wow!
Just sitting on the bow, just for hours, just paddling and paddling. Then I come in and I'm like, I was making a noise like this or whatever, and like work on the boat with him. It was ridiculous.
That's. I mean, that sounds like a very. That sounds like a fun upbringing. You know, your
it was
adventures.
So fun.
It's it sounds like a very like late 80s, early 90s kind of like, you know, I mean, it's just, it seems like a Steven Spielberg type.
You know what's really hilarious? That this, we didn't talk about this. So when we first got the marina, I was like 7. So my little brother was about 2. Mm-hmm. And there was an incident where he almost drowned. Like he was, the guy we were buying the marina from saw him face down in the water, jumped in and pulled him out, saved him. So from that day on, my mom was so terrified because it's fucking 10 acres. How are you you're trying to run this place. You can't keep track of like, I mean, there was the gas station, the bait shop, the snack shop, the showroom where we sold boats. There was the, you know, like where we're fixing boats. And then there's like 8 other garages. Oh, and then there was a campground too. So there's like all these cottages and trailers and shit that we rented out. And then like a beach with like play equipment. It was enormous. No way to keep track of 2 kids. Okay. So my little brother's 2, almost drowns. So from that day forward, for the rest of the time we had the marina, for the next 7 fucking years, every morning, as soon as my little brother got dressed, my mom would put a life jacket on him. And he lived his entire fucking childhood in a life jacket.
Wow.
And I have photos, Dave. It's so fucking funny because I'll go through photos now and we'll be like at someone else's house and he's in a life jacket. Yeah. Or we're like at a bonfire and he's in a life jacket just because it became part of his like daily thing.
Tell me that's not...
His whole life is in a life jacket.
I mean, like, going back to what I said, tell me that's not like a character in the Goonies or something.
Right?
Like the one kid that shows up.
It was so funny. And when he was really little, he had one of those, he had this life jacket. For anyone who's like not a boater or whatever, little kids will have life jackets that has a strap that goes between their legs. So, and then there's a little strap. I'm pointing to nothing right now because this is a podcast, but there's like a little loop on the top, like back, like the back of the neck of the life jacket. So if you're boating and your kid falls in the water, you just pick them up.
Yank them out, yeah.
Well, of course, my cousins and brothers and I just use that to fuck with my brother because he's in the goddamn thing. He has a handle on him at all times, so we would just drag him everywhere. Which has got to be a living hell.
Yeah, no doubt.
I mean, I can't imagine being like 3 and then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, and you're like jerked back and you're like just being drugged through gravel.
That's so funny. Yeah, and so your dad's in his 60s now, and he's still living in Indiana.
Florida now, because him and my mom
Florida,
left,
that's right. Because him and your mom got remarried.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So when you go back to visit, you go back to Indiana and you just see your grandma, or do you go out to Florida?
Yeah, I haven't been to visit them in Florida. The last time I saw my dad was like maybe 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. I guess it was 3 years ago. When I was in Indiana, I was on the road with Jessica Michelle and this other comic, Dana Moon. And we had a show in Chicago, so he stopped over there. Yeah, sadly my dad didn't make it to my dad's never been to a show of mine, but he neither of my parents have. But he couldn't make it to the show because he was taking care of a friend of his that had cancer. So, but it was nice to see him. It was nice to visit my dad.
So you've never had that moment where it's happened to me twice, where every time my parents have come to watch me perform comedy, I absolutely bomb. Like I just choke.
I don't want them to see my comedy. I don't. Not at all. My little brother's never seen my sets. I mean, he may have seen something online, but he hasn't come. And then my oldest brother has come to one show, and then my brother Jim has come to like most of my shows when I'm in Chicago if I'm like visiting, which is nice.
A little bit of support, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had just a few weeks ago. We had a show. We were just starting up, and we just needed to put some butts in seats. And so I invited my mom and dad to like come out. And then they brought like 6 of their friends. I was like, oh, that's cool, And thankfully, I was just hosting. And if you bomb as a host, it's like it's whatever, Like you're not supposed to be that funny as the host.
Yeah, you're like whatever. I was just hosting.
Yeah,
it's not like I was like doing comedy.
I got like 4 minutes into my, just opening the crowd. I'm like, oh, that's my mom. That's my dad.
Oh yeah.
And then I just got all in my head about it.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of bits of mine that you saw like the filthier stuff at the end where I'm like, I would never, never. I would just walk off the stage before I would start.
You're talking about the O.J. Simpson VJ joke?
Yeah. You'll have to look for it, guys. Yeah, and the thing is, too, it's like not even like, ugh, like, it's weird enough to, like, say shit like that in front of your parents, but also my parents are like, I mean... I think between the two of them, I've maybe hugged them 3 times in my life. Like, they're very not affectionate. We don't ever, like... My dad might, like, tell us a filthy joke every once in a while, but there's no... It's like... It's like we're, like, weirdly cold. Like, so it's like to go from that to be like, hey, watch me tell this fucking blowjob joke. Then it's like, no, I can't. I couldn't.
And do you... I mean, and it sounds like did you like crave that or like that affection? Yeah.
Well, now as an adult,
give me a fucking hug.
And this is weird, and I feel like I'm setting myself up for disaster to say this just to the general public.
It's okay.
But now
nobody's gonna listen to this.
Now I really like to be touched a lot. Like I hug my friends, and like even if I'm like in line at the grocery store, if somebody like touches my shoulder and they're like, excuse me, I'm like, oh, this is great.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. That connection. And my dad and I are close. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I maybe hug him 3 times a year. And it's not because I don't want to hug him. It's just that feels like the appropriate amount of times to hug my dad. I don't know what to, I mean,
that seems right.
Like
a couple of grown men.
We've never been like overly affectionate, physically, but I call him. I talk to my dad, probably 2 or 3. Oh, no, more than that. I mean, I usually call him because I always have a problem. Like, because I'm in a weird place where I'm both very poor and a homeowner, and so like I usually have to like figure shit out. I can't really afford to pay a guy, and so I have to call my dad for all of my problems. I mean, I have this running theory that I don't feel like I'm going to actually be a grown up until my dad dies. Because he helps me.
Oh, that's a weird thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like because always in the back of my mind, I'm like, no matter how bad things get, I can call my dad, and And I'm not talking about like financially, like borrowing money.
Right.
I'm talking about like, Dad, I need some advice, or like I need to. This is a problem I've never encountered before.
It's so funny because I feel like that's not that my parents are totally incompetent, but they're incompetent. And I think they would be the last people I would call for anything.
Really?
I mean, the couple of times I've ever called them out of frustration over something, I'm like, why the fuck did I do that? That was stupid. Like, because then I just end up feeling worse or like being mad or something because it'll just be like some mess, you know? This has nothing to do with dads, but like a little over a year ago, I got all these death threats from Trump supporters.
Oh my God.
Over a tweet. It was really stupid. And it was Christmas and I called my dad. I wanted to talk to my dad, and my mom picked up and she's like, what do you want? And I was like, I want to talk to Dad. And she's like, well, he's not here right now. What do you want? And I was like, can you find him? I want to talk to Dad. Cause I was just like freaked out. Yeah. And she's like, he went out. What do you want? And so then I told her and she goes, well, maybe you should keep your mouth shut. And I was like,
oh God damn it.
I have fucking people telling me they're going to come to my house and kill me. Can you say anything nice? Yeah. Or can you just pretend that you care? You know, it was just like, yeah. She's a Trump supporter. So.
Yeah, I guess it's weird.
Yeah, it was just
dynamic.
Like, but that's a kind of like, you know, like there was like a big writing job I didn't get a few years ago and I thought I was going to get it. So I was really upset about it. And I was on the phone with my dad, just like bullshitting. And then I brought it up and I told him I was frustrated. He's like, well, just get a job as a plumber. I don't fucking know. And I'm like, okay, well, this isn't helping. Forget it. And like, he means well, you know, he's always trying to like get me to go home and do a fucking union job. And I'm like, I'm trying to get a union job, Dad, a union writing job. So I can
right. Yeah.
Not be in danger. Okay. I want to make real good money and also relax.
And that's been my time in Florida and Indiana.
I don't ever want to come home and take metal out of my eye with a magnet. You know,
my God, that's some crazy dad stuff right there. Yeah. My dad's had metal in his eyes before. I'm like, how do you?
Yeah, I used to like sit and I would watch my dad come home from work and just go in the mirror and like take a magnet, and it's like, well, yeah, I guess that is what you would do to get it out of your eye, but also, what the fuck? Yeah. I can't imagine having like little bits of metal in my eye. Yeah. If I get a piece of dust in there, I'm going crazy. You know.
I mean, whatever it takes to be able to do that. Definitely skipped me. You know, you know, with this property that I live on, you know, it's a old piece of family property that my grandparents bought in like 1945, and they turned it into farmland. But when they bought it, it was a swamp. Wow! And my grandpa was like, "Okay, I'm gonna make it into a farm." Mm-hmm. Like, I have no idea where you would even begin with that. You know, like, I couldn't do... He, like, terraformed... Like, this is stuff I read about in sci-fi, where they, like, terraform the planet. And I'm like, this guy had, like a tractor and a shovel, and I have not, you know, and... So, definitely different stuff. But and then again, they were also a little racist. So, you know, I mean, you talk a little bit about that in your act. Yeah. You know? I don't know where we end up on this whole... okay, so do you have... We can finish on this. Do you have any dad advice for me, you know, on...
Dad advice for you?
Yeah. Oh. I know you're not a dad, but ways that I could approach my dadding in a positive way, raising a...
God. I'm just wondering, like, what you haven't already been told. You know? Like, I mean... Be supportive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's okay if you have...
Unfortunately, to some degree, I think you just have no control over...
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of my life, I'm like, if my dad knew what I was up to, he would actually have a heart attack and die.
Really?
He'd be like, you're doing... Excuse me? You're doing what? Oh, you're dating a rapper? Excuse me?
Well, it's one thing one thing I will say I'll take away... from what you just said a minute ago, I think is really important, which is like, just listen, Because like when you were going through that Trump thing, you weren't necessarily looking for advice. You were like, I just need to unload on somebody, and just.
I just need somebody to fucking calm me down and be like, hey, you're fine. Mm-hmm. Nobody's coming to your door. Just relax. Merry Christmas. We love you. Yeah. Wish you could be here. None of that happened. No amount of that. I should actually just learn to call someone else's parents and be like, hey, what can
my folks are really nice. I can give them I can introduce. Well, no, I'm not going to introduce my parents. They're going to get the wrong idea. But
I will say this, that a couple of things. My dad always like, I'm realizing now as an adult that it stems from sexism.
Oh, sure.
But I have 3 brothers, and my dad treated me like one of the boys all the time, and it wasn't anything I like really picked apart until I was older, but it was good because like he would have me help do shit around the house and like show me how to do things, and like, hey, I'm working on my car and this is how this works, and like not talk down to me like I was an idiot. And like he really wanted me to know, I don't know, like to know how to be self-sufficient and how to do everything that like quote man is supposed to do. Like my dad was like, no, fuck that. I don't need you like looking for a man to do shit for yourself. I like want you to be able to do it yourself. Yeah.
I mean, that's cool. And you do seem quite self-sufficient.
Pretty self-sufficient.
Yeah. I
for
mean,
the most part.
Like, we were talking a little bit about, we got to wrap it up soon, but we were talking a little bit about just some of the crazy situations and people you meet in comedy, you know? And, I'm still picking up. I thought I stopped for a second there, but I mean, like just in this very situation where you were totally cool with like we don't know each other that well, and I'm like, okay, you're gonna stay at my house out in the country somewhere, like and
at a place that GPS cannot find.
Yeah, right.
Is that okay with you? Feel comfortable?
Yeah, but I mean, like for you, you're. I mean, you seem pretty unflappable with a lot of the stuff that like life has thrown at you, and I guess that counts for something.
I think that's like my parents in weird circumstances, and then also like being raised in a biker bar for half my life. It's like, oh, you think you're scary? You should meet some of the dudes who changed my diapers when I was a baby. Okay, like I don't. This is nothing.
Speaking of a biker bar, that's a great looking jacket, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, we got back from a show. I immediately changed into sweatpants. Elisa's still looking great.
This is just like a different version of laziness. It's like I'll change at the very last minute.
So cool. Well, thank you so much, Lisa. That was a ton of fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That was great. We ran 52 minutes. We did.
Cool.
That just flew by.
We're good.
Cool.
You're killing it as a dad. I think you're doing good.
I'm going to release this in April, so I don't know how many specific shows you could plug, but I mean, could you tell people where to find you on social media?
Oh yeah. Hey. Well, my website is lisacurry.net. Mm-hmm. So you can go on there and find all my show dates. On Twitter, I'm Lisa_Curry, and then Instagram is very sincere. It's not like a jokey, fun Instagram. It's just like, hey, here's me doing something I like. But that's Olympian Lisa Curry.
Yes,
because there's an Olympic gold medalist named Lisa Curry, and she took Lisa Curry. Oh. So I was like, fuck you, I'm taking Olympian.
Is that what that is? Yeah. I've always because I've seen it, and I'm like, I knew she did sports in high school, but I didn't know how far she took.
Yeah, no, that's just me being a dick. I'm like, if I was an Olympic gold medalist, I would introduce myself as such every day. So,
absolutely.
So for her to just take my name, fine, then I'm taking Olympian. One of us should, for God's sakes.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
That was a great episode.
All right.
Cool. Bye. That was Lisa Curry. She's great, right? Oh man, that was a really fun episode to record, and so thanks again to Lisa for taking the time and talking dads with me. I think that is everything. Follow her on all the social medias, everything she plugged. Do that. She's insanely talented, and you'd be missing out on her if you didn't. So I will see you guys next week. I've got another fun episode. I think I'm gonna release my Brandy Posey episode. That one's a lot of fun too. So there's that. So come back next week if you enjoyed it. Rate it and review it on iTunes. And I think that'll do it for this week, guys. I will see you again real soon. Bye.